We are all connected, and we all share the same light. Home is the collective, unconditional. Only love could be so simple.
Hey everybody, welcome. We are doing Love Notes tonight. Oh, it's our inaugural, very first episode of Love Notes with my dear, sweet friend, recording artist, and amazing teacher. I could say so many nice things about you, but I want to get into the show because we have Walter here as well. But Venus, welcome. Hello.
Hello. Welcome everybody to Love Notes. I'm super excited for this first episode.
I know. We teamed up on this. We wanted to bring a little more depth to the music world, to the industry, dig into some stories, and really learn about the history of music with amazing people that have really made an impact in music. And we couldn't have picked a better person to start with. We have got composer, writer, producer, Walter Bland joining us today. Welcome, Walter.
Welcome,
Hello.
Good to not see you, but hear you.
Yeah, there you go. Who is that masked man, right?
Right. You know,
Yes.
that works for you, just staying behind the scenes and doing what you do, that works.
That's right. They'll never know who is he really, you know.
That's right. So, Walter, kicking us off, I want to let me hear a little bit about where your love of music came from.
Well, when I was a little boy, which was, I'd like to say it was a few years ago, but it was a little longer than that. And I have to tell the truth because I don't know, you might have a lie detector in the background, so I got to tell the truth. When I was 7 years old, um, I was watching a Walt Disney show with my grandmother, and my parents went out buying groceries. And I saw the life of Tchaikovsky, and I said, I want to play like that. So when they came back, she said, he needs to have music lessons. And so that's how I actually got started. And my grandmother was a amazing painter, but of course never got the credit because back in those days, Black women didn't get anything like that. So, she was, as a painter, Norman Rockwell saw her work and told her not to take lessons because he said she would have a natural style. That's what he wrote back to her after she shared her work with him. So, and she got all of our family members into the arts. My first cousin, Van Alexander, um, he ended up to have the first all black camera crew for NBC, and he also produced the only documentary on Stokely Carmichael, and he was one of Michael Jackson's publicists for 35 years, and also he did all kinds of things in terms of the arts, and particularly in Africa and places like that. And then his brother, my other first cousin, Richie Alexander, he was, yes, it was a black man, who was very much responsible for helping to bring punk rock to America. And he had a club down in the village that he used to manage. He managed several clubs. And when I was a college student at the Berklee College of Music, I used to visit him in New York, and I used to see all those crazy punk rock artists and all of that. And actually, I spoke to him today, and we were talking about we want to do a punk rock revival with some of those major acts that he was involved with, and which I think would be a very interesting thing to do right now.
That would be incredible. That would be super dope. So your grandmother spearheaded all this creative talent in your family.
Oh yeah, she was, and my sister ended up going to FIT in New York, and she did some designing for Calvin Klein, because he used a lot of different designers, and
Mm,
then and does a little squiggly iggly that some people do. But she designed stuff for him, and she also designed all of the blouses for a women's company called Belle Femme in New York. So she got all of us started in the arts. We were all ended up to be artists. I mean, in my crew, if you talked about being a banker, you might get a slap upside the head. We don't do bankers here. We don't do that here. We do artists here.
that is amazing. So Tchaikovsky, I'm assuming your first love was the piano.
Yes, and that's what I ended up staying with and sticking with. I love the piano, and I was addicted to it and was never cured. I don't know what to say. That's where I am. I'm addicted to that. And I had some very good experiences though when I was going to school, going to Berkeley. The first bass player that I ever had, he played with Thelonious Monk when he was 17 years old. And so he was really heavy into a lot of music and a lot of the artistic thing. And I was very fortunate to have people like Bill Pierce in my early bands when I was, still a student. And Bill Pierce ended up playing with Monk and Mingus and Duke Ellington and all those other people. When you look him up, you'll see he's played with just about everybody. So I was really blessed to have the experience to play with such accomplished musicians and also to study with so many of the old heads when I was going to Berkeley, because that was in the early days of Berkeley. And the musicians that I got to study with in class had played with everybody. I had, in particular, a bass player named Major Holly, and he had played with all the great piano players and all the great musicians, and had all the crazy stories about what the musicians would do and what they would do to each other when the guy didn't have their money on time. And so, but in the ensemble, when you made an error, he would hear every single error that everybody would make, and he would stop the whole ensemble and call you out. Which was kind of why everybody would be terrified when it was time to go to his ensemble. I remember once he called me out and he said, and he had a gruff voice like that, said, "Mr. Bland, why don't you do everybody a favor and become a plumber and save some time?" You know.
That's harsh. How old were you at
Yeah,
that time?
I was in my 20s. I was a
Oh, yeah. But I
second
know
year of college.
made everybody around him better musicians.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Frankness.
I mean, he influenced me as a composer. I remember once at an ensemble, I brought an original piece of music, and he said, "Mr. Bland," he said, "if you don't come with an original piece of music every time you come to ensemble, I'm going to fail you." You know. And I said, "But you didn't ask them to do it." And they said, "No, I'm telling you to do that." And that's what kind of like pushed me in so many ways. But I had a really wonderful experience when I was in Boston. I was part of a black theater company called New African Theater Company, and they were one of the first and earliest really powerful black theater companies, particularly on the East Coast. Some of them were original members of the New Lafayette Theater Company in New York, and the New Lafayette Theater Company was the first major black theater company, I would say, in America. People like James Earl Jones and Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee and Billy D. Williams, and they all came from that ensemble. And the guy that I was connected to, his name was James Spruill, and he was part of that whole group. So he also became a mentor for me. I actually switched from going to Berklee College of Music to Emerson College, where I studied literature, because I had gone through this really powerful struggle. Am I going to be a musician, or am I going to be a writer? And so when I went to when I went to Berkeley, I said, "What have I done? I'm a writer too." But then I got involved with all of these amazing people, And then when I went to Emerson College, it was the same thing. All of these writing giants would come and they would be kind of like, would do workshops with us. We would do their plays and they were all part of that. So I got to really, I would say I got to study and hang out with masters. I mean, you don't have the same masters like today, like you did back then. And they were had so much passion in their work. They weren't chasing the money. They were doing their art to the best of their ability. That was the thing that came first, and money was just something that came after that. But there was such a powerful struggle in terms of just people of color getting into into the television and media and all that other stuff. They were just it was a battle to be who you are. It was during the time when I was studying at Emerson College that one of their students said, "Well, do you want to write some music for a television show?" I said, "Oh yeah, I really do." And then next thing I knew, they introduced me to this guy named Steve Hemingway. Steve Hemingway was one of the first blacks to write for television, period, in the history of the planet. He wrote for CBS Playhouse 90 and he became a mentor for me. And what happened is that he did the first sitcom that African Americans produced. Maybe not the first black sitcom, but the first one that African Americans produced. And it was called Brother Love. And then I don't think I can get sued now because Norman Lear's not alive anymore. But anyway, he said that black sitcoms will never sell. That's what he told, you know, Steve Hemingway. And then he turned around and what did he do? Black sitcoms, right?
Right.
He made a
Right.
fortune and a career on black sitcoms and even had a character named Bubba, which was the main character in our show Brother Love. And so that's kind of like what happened with that one. But the thing about it is, also Steve Hemingway did the first black news program for television. He called it Black News. And at that time, there was no BET, there was none of that other stuff. So he was really a pioneer in that respect. And I wrote the music for theme music for that as well. So I was around all these innovators and innovative giants when I was in Boston. And when I was a kid and younger, you don't even realize the mix that you're actually in and the historical part that you're actually part of because you're just so happy and having fun, being able to be creative in those kinds of circumstances. And it was also, I got connected with a guy named David Roderick. David Roderick was a TV producer. He's now on staff with National Geographic, but he produced this. He was a producer on this show called Infinity Factory. It was a children's television series, and I ended up writing all the songs for that national PBS children's series, and it was the first time a Latino was an executive producer for a national television series. So I got to experience all of that. So if I get hit by a truck tomorrow, I can say, well, I've had some amazing experiences. Now I haven't made the money yet, but I have had the amazing experiences and have made a lot of amazing contacts and got to see a lot of changes and be part of those changes.
Yeah, it
And that,
sounds like it. It sounds like you've had an opportunity to experience a lot of foreground um, building in in African American in arts. African American arts and the roles that we play in the arts and television and music. And it sounds like you chose art first. And you're still waiting on the money. I know how that goes
oh
because
yeah.
I'm there. It's music first for me, and I truly believe the money will come. If that's what is meant to be, um, and I believe the same for you, and I wish the same for you.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, things are working out because I made a lot of amazing, enormous, powerful contacts, and now I'm pushing my buttons, and they were saying, "Where you been?" And so,
Yeah,
it's Walter time now. Time for
absolutely.
me, time to make my move with all of those, and I really want to make a difference with those. And the people that I worked with, they are all about community and helping the community and doing
Yeah.
things that have a spiritual design to it, because they
Well,
realize that the world is going to fall apart if we don't do that now.
absolutely. And tell us about one of the endeavors that you're part of, community wise, is creating is teaching music to children, correct?
Yes.
Teaching them how to
Well,
compose.
what? Yeah. Well, one of the experiences I was fortunate to have is the music teacher I had taught me a whole other system that nobody's using right now. He left it with me, and now I'm finally brave enough to try and use it.
Wow.
And at this point, at this age, whatever, what do I have to lose, right? Absolutely
Absolutely.
nothing.
Absolutely.
And, and so what I do is I am using tendency tones to teach children to compose music, and then also the the structure that he used. He showed me that there are 49 chord possibilities for every single note. So that gives you an idea of what your possibilities are. And what I do with my students is I don't teach them to paint with three colors. I said, you have a whole lot more than three colors. You have this huge canvas, and it's not learning these techniques are not going to take away from your creativity, because you have to apply your creativity to the techniques for it to even work anyway. And so what I'm doing is working with children in that respect. But one of my friends, he invented a new instrument. He took cans and tuned them and set them up like a vibraphone. And the cans have a unique sound there. They have a sound between um, a vibraphone and a steel drum. So it's a brand new um, nomenclature in music. And we've actually used it with a youth orchestra that I had in Atlanta, and it's a pretty amazing instrument, because our goal is to take and spread that instrument all over the world, and then to teach children online music where they can actually not only create music and play it together, but they can play together because of the technology that now exists where you can do that. So they'll be able to, for all those children who can't afford saxophones and pianos and all those other expensive instruments, if they collect cans, we can tune them and then have teachers, like myself, and teach them, composition, technique, and all the other things. And so now you'll have the world playing together instead of fighting. Because
Oh wow.
when you have think about this. A child grows up learning music like that, and let's say his friend is Ubuntu in some other part of the world, right? Now
Right.
he's not going to have a bad feeling about Ubuntu, because he said, we've been making music for years, so it's like, you can't tell me all the bad stuff you're trying to tell me about him, because we've been busy having fun making making lovely music and sharing things and all that other stuff. So that kind of eradicates all of those bad feelings that people may have, because music is the healing force. The arts are everything. Because if you think about people and you take the art away from them, without the arts, they would be buck naked in the woods, still being eaten by animals. Because everything is art. The
Yeah.
clothes you wear, the chair you sit in, the house you're in, all of it came from the mind of an artist. Even the speeches a politician writes, it came from the mind of an artist. So it really is mind-boggling to me that they would put the artist on the bottom of the society when the artist should be on the top of the society, because we have a spiritual heart that a lot of people don't, because some people are just chasing money, and we do things first of all because of the love of the art, and we see ourselves connected to the rest of the universe and the rest of the world and the rest of people. We don't see ourselves as disconnected, which is a terrible, stupid mistake in the first place, because most people don't realize when you talk, every word you say has a tone.
Right.
Every single word. You could take the thing that you use to tune an instrument and put it next to the person when they talk, and you will see that every word is a note or a different note. So actually, we are singing at all times.
Yes.
It's like God's opera that we are part of at all times. So how can we talk about being disconnected? I mean, racism, all that other foolishness. It's just foolishness because it's not real. You know, it's really an illusion that people have indulge themselves and engross themselves in, but you're part of a universal symphonic movement. Your creator is created at all times, and you're part of it, whether you
Yeah.
like it or not. So what are
That's
you talking about? You know?
that's a beautiful, beautiful concept when you think about it. How we're connected, and um, it is a shame that so many of us feel disconnected when there is no disconnect. You know, there's truly no disconnect. Um,
Yeah, we
like
bring that music in all the time. I'm sitting here listening to it, and I just went to listen to a lecture. She was talking about the power of our voice, even when we're speaking, and we have crescendos in our voice as we get more excited, or we want to make a stronger point, and we bring it. And our voice will go up a little bit, and we do that, like get very loud, and then there's times when we'll bring it down, and we'll have a little tenderness into it, and we'll talk a little quieter, and that is all music. And I never connected that until you said that we're actually playing our own symphony, the music of our lives, as we share that out with others. It's just so impactful. It's just incredible to me.
it is. That is incredible. Absolutely, it's a beautiful
When you think about it, you look at the rhythm of your life, okay?
thing.
When
Mhm.
you meet somebody and you talk to somebody, and we all carry a tone with us. Everybody does, okay?
Yeah,
Like it or not, you carry a tone. And that's why you say, I don't know, there's something that irritates me about that person. It's because of the interval of your tone to that person that has a dissonant kind of a really tense sound to it. And there's nothing wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with that person. It's
yeah.
just what the tone that you're carrying, and then a third person will come and they'll soften that dissonant tone so now it's not dissonant as much anymore. Like when a mother comes in, when two children are arguing or fighting, she's actually that tone that softens that dissonant tone that's going on between the two of them.
I see a Pixar video right now of tones, you know, like like soul and stuff like it. A little Pixar short, just with tones. I mean, that's an amazing concept when you really visualize it, you know.
It is, and then we can learn from each other with our tones, with our voices, with our words, to bring this music, this sound of our voice, to harmonize with one another and bring communities and people together. Walter, what are some ways that you see that with what you're doing now? How are you focusing on bringing that with what you're doing with the children's music and all of the things that, and I know you have a lot of things going on that you're busy doing. So how are we harmonizing with one another through what you're working on?
Well, one of the people I'm working with is a Dr. Andrew Griffin, and he used to be the number two man in the country for the National Association of Educators. So I started talking to him about the whole concept of how we're constantly singing and we're a part of this symphony. And so he wants me to do a paper on that. You know, he said, because that's such an important concept that most people aren't even paying attention to that. And what I wanted to do was to continue to do what I did with the Infinity Factory show, is to teach all kinds of educational concepts using music, because people remember those those simple melodies, those nursery rhymes, even when they have Alzheimer's, they still can remember London Bridge is falling down. It's because that's how powerful it is. So we've been talking about creating more of those kinds of things, and imagine if there was a school where the people were constantly singing, but in those songs were the concepts of math and science and all that stuff, because anything can be in those melodies. and the children will remember it, and the adults will remember it too. When you think about it, it's those, because we are what we are. We are a note in the cosmos of this symphonic orchestral movement that's happening at all the time. So we're not disconnected from that. So to me, that's the way that you can have everybody connect, is you use music to connect everybody, and you have work with the teachers. And that's what I learned when I was in Infinity Factory, where they give you what their concepts are that have to be taught in the classroom, and then you turn it into a melody, a song that the children can sing along with it, and you'd be surprised how quickly they learn that concept. And that's what I want to do with what I'm doing, and using the Vibracan instrument where they can also play it, and then they can also write melodies and put the concepts and melodies they write. So it's not just one person doing it, but everybody is working towards that goal together by creating these songs and these melodies together. And we're teaching each other, because now we're acting as a humanity village. And that's what I say, because we're all connected. When they say, well, life started in Africa, so what does that mean? It means everybody walking the face of the earth is African. Okay? It doesn't have to do with the color of your skin. It's the fact that you are African, whether you like it or not. That's where it started, and you're part of that. It doesn't mean one race is above another race. It's just about coming to grips with that and saying we're all part of the same human family. Okay? It's not one is above the other one, but we're part of that same cosmos. We're part of that same, because I believe that there's only one spirit, and we're part of that one spirit, period. Every living being is part of that one spirit that exists. But
Yeah.
we get into all of this ego stuff, or get into the greed stuff about, well, I got to have a bigger house, or I have to have more money, or I have to. And it's like, and then you die. Then what happens, right? All of that, was for what? For nothing. Because what did you leave? A legacy of people saying, boy, that was a real selfish person, and blah, 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 blah. And then they don't have nice things to say about you. So what did you do? All you did was make people miserable. And now you're, who knows, cast out in the cosmos somewhere. And maybe God will just let you float on by, because they said, no, this one was a waste of time. Let him keep going, you know?
Well, I sure hope that is not the case. And the way I love the fact that your call to action is through music, through education. As an educator, I believe firmly in the arts and education. I think it's greatly needed. It's unfortunate that a lot of the school systems are institutions are removing um, music and arts from their curriculum. So, you know, and Bree can tell you more about this, but one of our sponsors, the Great Discovery, is a great opportunity to tap in and be able to use that platform to be able to do just that with the Vibracans and connect people through music education. So this is all perfect and all divine. I love it. I think it's incredible what you guys are doing, you and Mr. Griffin, and I would love to see how we could help you guys do that successfully on a bigger scale.
One of my friends, he worked for Coca-Cola and McDonald's for 35 years. And so he's connected to their foundations and everything. And Telemundo did a documentary on him. So he's friends with their CEOs and all of that other stuff. So what we're talking about is bringing all of these resources together for the sake of humanity. It's not about all that, because we're at the edge. Okay, time's up. There's no more time for the grandstand, and that's not going to help anybody. And he'll be in this big house, let's say, with money piled to the ceiling, and then along comes a tidal wave and wipes it all out, and there you are, floating in the water. I mean, the reality is there's so many things that have to be addressed with human beings. They predict that about 50 to 60% of the world will be homeless in the next few years. 50 to 60%. That's serious. And you can see it happening right in front of your eyes
You
with the
can.
wars that are
Yep.
happening, with the people being displaced from their homes. I mean, it's not like, a far-fetched situation,
No, it's not.
and I'm involved with somebody working on a project about hunger and homelessness. I wrote the music for a jazz ballet, and I have printed out all the music and the parts and the scores, and that's so everything for me is humanity because other than that, what does it really mean? It's kind of like, and it's not about, well, how great are you? It's like I've been around giants, and they're not like that. They're not like that at all. They're some of the most humblest human beings you could ever meet because they say, well, all right, look at this now. Here I am, a speck of dust, okay, in this room, right? Then now look outside. Now, how big am I in relationship to the block? Okay, the neighborhood. How about the city? Now the state, right? Then the country. Now the continent. Now the world. Now the universe. Now how big am I in relationship to all that endless stuff? And then I say to people, if you think you're all of that and so smart, then go inside of the library and then tell me how many of these books you haven't read yet. That's how smart that you are.
That's right. That's incredible. Walter, you have so much more to share with us, and I can't wait to have you back on the podcast because I feel like we barely like got into so many things I wanted to talk about today, but we did cover a lot. So I am so incredibly grateful to have you on the show. I don't want to go just yet. I want to give you the last word, but I'm gonna throw it to Venus first. But I want to know from you, and I'll let you think about this while she wraps us up. What is it you want people to do? What can they do to put more music into the world? And I'm going to let Venus take us, and then she'll throw it to you, and then we'll wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our very first episode. Venus, close us out.
Listen, I just want to say I am so grateful to have you, Bree, by my side in this venture. Walter, thank you for coming on the show today, being our very first guest for our inaugural episode, bringing us so much information. And like Bree said, there's so much that we've talked about that we didn't even get to scratch the surface on, so much history and so much and other life experiences that you've had that I would love for you to be able to share and come back and share with our listeners. But I would like to pass that question. I just want to say I'm grateful, and I just thank God for this opportunity to be able to share your journey with everyone. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I guess I'm such a big blabbermouth, right? And running my mouth endlessly. I said
We
I
love
should have
it.
just been quiet and let you ask me questions and not running my mouth like I did so much.
No, we love
But
it. We love it. We want that history. We want those experiences. It was every bit of it was pure gold to us. So we appreciate it.
what I would like people to do is encourage your child to do what their passion is. They
Mhm.
are not connected to you by an umbilical cord, and they're not you, and you're not them. Maybe you're afraid of heights and they have the potential to be a great airplane pilot or whatever. So you can't go by trying to make them clones of yourself. And so many parents try to do that, and then the child has all of these emotional and mental problems because the parent didn't support them in what their journey was, what the child's journey was. Or when you see somebody, let people be who they are, creatively, because everybody's got a creative spirit and a creative soul. And you don't know, in terms of when you judge somebody, you don't know what that person is going to end up or could end up to be and what they could end up to discover to help all of humanity. So it's kind of like sometimes you got to leave them alone and just give them the support that they need. in the way that they need it and the way they ask for it, not the way that you think they should get it, because it's all about everybody's on their own journey, and in their journey there's certain things that are specifically called for, that's specific for their journey. So you can't jump in their shoes and say, oh, I know what it. No, you don't. None of us do. You just give the support of who they are and where they are, and I think the world will be a much better place that way.
Amen.
What a way to end it. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Home is the